Now, I've spoken previously about why all performers should have their own cabaret show and how to write it. And one of you said, tell me about venues and marketing, which translates as, how do I get bums on seats? So I'm going to share what I've learned about choosing a venue, finding an audience, keeping costs down. And because I love you very, very much, I've reached out to a publicist for his top tips that we can all steal. Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, in this video, I'm mainly focusing on cabaret, but a lot of the information is equally applicable to any independent production. Now, we're all impatient for overnight success, and of course, it could happen. But in the meantime, the short answer to filling seats consistently is to play the long game, building buzz around you and the show. What we might call good word of mouth. Because you could put up all the billboards in the world, but if nobody knows what it is, they'll ignore it. That's where publicity comes in. Now, if you've seen a major musical on the east coast of Australia in the past, couple of decades, chances are the publicist was my friend Ian Phipps, and he kindly let me pick his brains for the speckles of gold dust, the practical things to help us publicise our own show. We need to understand that audiences come to a show for three reasons. They love the performer. We'll see whatever they're in. They love the show, no matter the cast. Or it sounds so compelling on paper, they'll jump at a recommendation. So the truth is, most of us fall into that third category. So we better make it compelling and we better deliver. But first, let's get our show into a venue and find our first audience. So for a cabaret show, I'd start with a soft launch for friends, family, anyone who can drag along to test the material so I know what it is that I'm publicising. Because most shows are not fully formed on first outing. So this is going to be a church hall, scout hall, community centre, upstairs at a pub, really whatever you can find. It might not have lighting or sound or a stage. You might have to sing acoustically and use your imagination to create some kind of ambience. But if it doesn't work here, down and dirty, it's not going to work with all the bells and whistles. So don't spend more money than you can afford. Should I charge an entry fee, even if it's still a work in progress? Yeah, because even a nominal fee says that it has some value. And this is one way you might raise some money for the next iteration, the next venue. But make sure the price reflects the quality of the show. Here's a tip from Ian. When you're calculating your costs, you must have reasonable expectations. Don't calculate based on filling 100% of the seats. You should break even or run into profit well below 30%. That way, any more than that is a bonus. And here's a tip from me. Film it, record it, the best quality you can. So you have something to reference, something to critique and refine, and then something to promote to the next venue, the next audience. And ask for comments. Don't do it online. You might not want all of these things public. And if you've got to log in or register, it's not going to happen. So for a soft launch, go old school. Pencils, paper, under the chairs, Dropbox by the door. Tell them that they're part of the process, that you value their opinion. Remember, these could be your first reviews. When I was in an a cappella quintet, we were rather rowdy after a particular performance. In the morning, someone pushed a note under our door saying, "That's the worst behaviour I've ever had to witness." So we put it in our poster as a review. Well, perfect publicity. And yes, some comments are going to be more valid than others. But be honest with yourself. What worked? What didn't? And why? Was it the material? Was it the delivery? Do you need to work with a writer to punch up the words? Or maybe a director to hone your performance? If you really want some brutal feedback, try your hand at busking, or private gigs, or corporate events, or even that little lounge at the casino that's only there because they're legally obligated to provide food to drunks and gamblers. Been there, done all of the above. And yes, it can be soul-destroying, but you quickly learn what keeps an audience watching. That's when you're ready for a hard launch. Now, the cachet of the venue can make a difference to some audiences, but the bigger part of the equation is to go where the audience is. You know, an obscure or makeshift venue in an arts-going district is more likely to find an audience than a high-profile venue in, a working-class suburb. So research your part of the world. And if you want to keep costs down while you build that audience, you're probably not booking that 1,600-seat theatre just yet. So you could find a small venue and do it all yourself, or approach a cabaret venue, a jazz club, a comedy club. Send them a trailer of the best bits from your soft launch, or whatever footage you've got, and be prepared to audition in person if it comes to that. Now, they might not offer you a whole season to begin with. They might not even offer you a prime spot on a Friday or Saturday night. But this is about building a relationship. And importantly, they cover the costs of the venue, of the equipment, of the sound guy. And they probably have marketing that you can plug into, whether it's their website or socials or a direct mailing list. And here's an insight from Ian. He said, if people book tickets online and consent to providing their contact details, as producer of the show, you're generally entitled to access that data. But check with the venue, your local laws, and use the data wisely. Okay, what about pay rates? Well, if you've booked your own venue and done everything yourself, then you keep all the profits after costs. If you're going to someone else's venue, there's going to be a variety of deals, from a flat rate, whether it's 1 or 6 of you. It could be a split of the door, or it could be a retainer plus a split of the door. I think with my group, when we launched, we had, I think it was a $200 retainer, split 5 ways, plus all of the door after the first $600. So on a bad night, we'd make no money because our $200 had to pay for the sound guy. But on a good night, we did pretty well. And after that launch, after that first night, they offered us a month of Fridays. So it can be worth taking a risk up front to renegotiate later. And the more you can demonstrate that you can bring in an audience, the more generous they're likely to be. Another way to launch is to look for a cabaret showcase as part of a cabaret or arts festival. Because even if they only give you a half-hour spot, it's a great way to promote yourself to a receptive audience, especially if you have some other dates locked in. You might not get a reviewer to a one-night-only show, because by the time the review comes out, there's nothing for the audience to see, unless you've got some dates already booked in which case send tickets to reviewers, to venues, and to festival directors. And remember, cabaret slots beautifully into a whole range of festivals, whether it's theatre or music or comedy. So it gives us a lot of choice. And when you're ready for a whole season, a festival is the perfect way to go because you're included in some of their marketing. Audiences are hungry to see new artists. And in some cases, the festival provides the venue. For instance, some years ago, I did a show downstairs at the State Theatre in Sydney. And it was a shared venue, which meant there was an act on before us at 7. I think we were on at 8:30 or 9. And then there was an act after us at 11 or something. I think our only cost was the sound guy because we were a headlining act. But if you're in an outside venue, just be aware that you might have to cover the cost of venue hire, equipment hire, technicians, front of house, and even public liability insurance. So before you book anything, do your research because costs can add up really quickly. Now, at this point, you're probably dealing with paperwork from some of the venues. Now, if it's something like a jazz club, it's probably as simple as an equipment list and then a set list of songs with maybe some dialogue cues. If it's a theatre, you might need a basic lighting plot, equipment list, cast list, and a full script for a stage manager to call sound and lighting cues, and there's probably some kind of contract. Now, a smaller venue like a pub or a club might not offer any kind of formal contract, but it's worth putting something in writing just so there's no confusion. I once got a gig where they agreed to provide the equipment, mics and amps and stuff. But when I got there, they said, "Oh, no, that was your job." So even if it's just a memo of understanding outlining who you spoke to, what you agreed to, where and when it happens, how you're going to be paid, it's worth getting into a habit of putting in writing as a courtesy to them, but also to safeguard you. So now the show's up and running, let's talk marketing and publicity. And yes, they are different things. Ian describes the relationship between marketing and publicity as a fluid one, because there is some crossover, but in general, marketing is the stuff you pay for. Posters, billboards, ads, brochures, whereas publicity is the stuff money can't buy, at least not directly, like guest appearances, interviews, photo shoots, and socials. Now, from the outside, publicity can seem like a bit of a dark art. So first of all, what can a publicist do that we can't do for ourselves? And Ian said, beyond any of the practical stuff, it's the relationships that he's built over time. Because he can reach out to journalists, broadcasters, producers, influencers, and they'll take his call. They'll read his email. And because he knows what they're looking for, he can frame the story, shaping the angle of the show to appeal to that outlet. And then there's the practical stuff like creating content for social media, organising interviews and photo shoots. And the better quality, the more it translates into bums on seats. Because apparently these days, the majority of tickets are booked via links on socials. And that's why he works hand in hand with marketing. But at what point are we ready for a publicist? Well, it really comes down to your budget, the number of nights, the number of seats, and whether it's going to give you a return on your investment. But Ian said there are 5 things we can do for ourselves. He also said to be aware that the media landscape has changed a lot over the past few years because it's more decentralised than ever. So that traditional guest spot on a morning show, on a talk show, is harder to get than ever, partly because there are fewer of them. There are smaller audiences, there's more competition for them, and they tend to favour celebrity and sensationalism. So we have to be more creative about reaching an audience. So what can we do for ourselves? Number 1, free listings. Now, most cities have some kind of free gig guide or what's on listing, so we should take advantage of that. If you're not sure what yours is, simply search your city with gig guide, what's on, or free listing. Number 2, good stills, and they must sell you and the show. Ian says lousy images are useless. If it doesn't cut through, if it doesn't catch our attention, we don't click on it. And clicks equals ticks. So only use your best shots, whether it's headshots, staged publicity shots, or action shots from the show itself. Number 3, good video. First up, you'll need a 50-second trailer with links on YouTube. This could be a compilation of best bits from the show. You could follow up with behind-the-scenes footage or you rehearsing at a piano. But again, it should be compelling, otherwise it's useless. You'll also need extended footage as overlay. So if you do get that news story or that guest appearance, they've got some vision to play underneath. Number 4, a great description. Now, this is not the place to big note yourself or roll out your CV. The audience doesn't care where you studied. I mean, they might care that you were a lead role in a major musical, but only if it's professional, not if it's back of bum players. I mean, this is the sizzle, so keep it concise with good hooks, recognisable hooks. What's the style? What's the content? The unique selling point? And keep it audience-focused because, really, what's in it for them? In that a cappella quintet I mentioned earlier, our first paragraph was the world tour, the title. A comedy, a cabaret, a cappella, the style. A piss take on pop stars, the content. So tease what it might be and then elaborate. Who's in it? What is it about? Is it played to rave reviews elsewhere? And if so, include those reviews. Number 5, connections and networks. Remember, you're not only building an audience, you're building allies in the industry. So if you get that interview, remember the journalist's name. Take an interest in them and be sincere about it. Be kind to the photographer. If you get that talk show, thank the producer. Write a handwritten note to the host. If you're in a festival, get to know the artistic director. Get to know the other artists, their managers, producers. Reach out to theatre owners, cabaret venues, and create a conversation. And importantly, reach out to fans, interact with them online or in person. And remember, in cabaret, especially if the audience is seated at tables like it's a dinner and show, it's considered good form to go out and greet them afterwards. So have some conversation ready. I asked Ian if there was anything else we should know, and he said, consider having a guest artist in your cabaret show, whether it's the same artist for the whole season or a different artist each night. That way you're tapping in to their network, their audience. Next up, Ian said, take advice from people who know what they're talking about. Even if you don't agree with it at first, listen, digest, because it might be worth hearing. And once again, he said, have realistic expectations. Does your show really have wide appeal, or is it really more of a niche audience? Because that's going to change how you market and publicise. I asked Ian what should be in a modern media pack. He said, well, beyond the stills, the video and a good description, he said, put together a compelling biog with background that's interesting and relevant. So don't just list every job you've had. Tell a story. Because if you get that interview, it gives them talking points beyond the main press release. And of course, include show dates, venue, any reviews. The final tip comes from me. That is, never take an interview for granted. Do some homework about the interviewer, the publication or the show. What's the style? What's the tone? Can he come up with a unique angle or an exclusive anecdote that no one else has? And keep track of who has which story, so that if they don't use it, you can give it to someone else. Every show, every artist is different, so test the results. If something works, do more of that. If it doesn't, try something else. Now, there is so much we could talk about, so if you have any questions, leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions or tips, leave those too. I'd love to hear about it. But hopefully now you can see a path from the church hall to the concert hall. And if you're in the Sydney area and you need a publicist for your show, reach out to Ian and his team at IP Publicity. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I do love you. Now get out there. Be brilliant.